Welcome to another episode of Whether or Not. On this week's show, we delve into the topics of extreme temperatures in other countries across the world. Also, how this summer has been a rain-soaked event for most of the United States, except for a few key locations. Tom will join me a little later in the studio with his forecast for the weekend and beyond. Travis will let us in on a website that will be geared towards getting young kids to learn about science. Get ready because a new episode of Whether or Not begins right now. Welcome to Whether or Not. I'm your host, Christy Shields.
And I'm your forecaster, Tom Bedard.
Tom, we've seen quite unseasonably nice temperatures and cool weather this week.
It has. Last week was actually pretty nice, and that was helped eventually by a cold front moving out of the area. Once it scooted out, we had this beautiful center of high pressure, which will be in place this weekend, but it started taking into effect last Wednesday and started blowing our air in from the north. So instead of having humid, more moist air coming down from the southeastern United States, we actually had much cooler, drier air from Ontario.
Well, that is good news, and hopefully you'll have more in your forecast, but for right now, it's time for Nature in the News.
In the United States, a revered bird is helping to get rid of a deadly beetle. The emerald ash borer beetle is an invasive species that has placed its crosshairs on the trees of Detroit, Michigan. These unnerving pests have been studied by scientists who predict that they could kill up to 90% of the United States ash tree population. Joining the fight against the beetle, local woodpeckers have placed the beetles at the top of their diet. The species of hairy, red-bellied, and downy woodpeckers are to the rescue. These common birds have been slashing the emerald ash borer beetle populations down in Michigan and surrounding states. The beetles store their larvae right underneath tree bark, which is where these three types of woodpeckers prefer to dine. The United States Forest Service has observed the woodpeckers, and they are eating approximately 30 to 40% of the larvae, which is significantly cutting down the beetle population. More woodpeckers are coming into the area to feast on the beetles. Not overly optimistic, scientists studying the beetle have noticed that it is beginning to spread into surrounding states.
We mentioned last week the lower 48 states have seen quite a wet summer with many places flooding. Last month brought even more rain to most states, especially on the East Coast. It was recorded by the National Climatic Data Center to be the fifth wettest July on record for the lower 48. Florida had the most rainfall, with the total being 12.38 inches, which also came in as their fifth wettest. Other states who saw rainfall amounts around what Florida saw include Alabama, Georgia, Ohio, North Carolina, and Virginia. Their rainfall amounts totaled up to be around 41.21 inches. Pennsylvania saw around 4.87 inches, which ranked it at its 27th wettest July on record. It hasn't just been a wet summer, but for some parts a soggy first 6 months of the year. Many cities broke their personal records for the rainiest first half of the year. One of these cities that was drenched was right here in Pennsylvania. Philadelphia has seen 36.34 inches of rain from January through July. This drenched city hasn't had much relief. At the beginning of this week, they experienced flash flooding from storms bringing heavy downpours.
Colorado is yet another state that has been experiencing these soaking conditions that have led to mudslides and flooding. Heavy rain in El Paso County, Colorado led to the drowning of one individual last week near the area of Manitou Springs. The victim, a 17-year-old girl named Rose Hames, decided to wait under a bridge for the storm to pass. While waiting, the water rose quickly and carried her downstream. Manitou Springs has been predisposed to flash flooding events ever since last summer's Waldo Canyon wildfire. The 2012 fire has allowed the area to be vulnerable because the dry, scorched soil does not absorb water at a high enough rate to defend against flash flooding. Mudslides in this county also proved fatal again when a man died while traveling on U.S. Route 22. The county is actively working to mitigate floods and mudslides by digging basins in areas where the wildfires ran rampant. By forming these basins, sediment will be caught during heavy rainfall events, which will decrease the threat of deadly flash floods.
It may be wet here in the United States, but Japan has been battling the heat. Temperatures have been on the rise for this country. Tokyo recorded their highest low temperature on August 11th to be 86.7 degrees. At the Ikawasaki Weather Observation Station in Shimanto City, the same day reported the temperature soaring to 105.8 degrees around 2 o'clock p.m. This broke their national record that was set on August 16, 2007 of 105.6 degrees. Japan has been keeping records for over 138 years. This recent bout of high temperatures is from a high-pressure system with very hot air sitting over China. In fact, China has been battling the heat as well. Port City in China also reached 105 degrees this August, making it an all-time record for this city. Shanghai also saw 29 days above 95 degrees, and 19 of those 29 days were actually above 100 degrees. Some rural areas of the country are suspected to have reached over 110 degrees over this 29-day stretch. Tom, do you think we'll see some extreme heat here in Pennsylvania?
Christy, I don't anticipate seeing any above average temperatures or any dangerously high temperatures for that matter in this forecast period. Now that's thanks in part to a center of high pressure located over the northern Ohio Valley rather. Now the circulation around this center of high pressure is going to be clockwise. You can expect your air to be coming from Ontario, Canada. What that means is it's going to be a two-part weather system. It's going to be dry and it's going to be cool. Now that's going to stick around for Friday, and if you were at progress days last week, you saw this last Wednesday and Thursday. Now let's stick around through Saturday as this center of high pressure kicks off to the east, but it doesn't really get any distance from us until Sunday when our weather begins to change just a bit. Now the circulation around this is going to allow our winds to come off the Atlantic Ocean, which isn't to say that it's going to be moist or warm, and in fact the weather will be quite similar to Saturday, but it does mean that it's going to spin up a bit of moisture that was originally to the south of us, but now might affect Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. So that's not concerning central Pennsylvania directly, but if you're traveling to maybe the coastline or any of the two largest cities in Pennsylvania, you might be of concern to that afternoon shower or thunderstorm. Now, we're not worried about any rain until really next week, starting off Monday and getting towards next weekend, but we'll talk about that later. For now, on Friday, we're seeing 76 degrees as our afternoon high temperature, mostly sunny sky. It's important to wear sunscreen if you're outside, out and outdoors. If you're staying outdoors into the night, looking beautiful out there, partly cloudy, 52 degrees, so cool but not too cold, and warm but not too warm on Saturday, 79 degrees, flirting just around the average with a few clouds, really much of the same as we saw on Friday. Now those clouds, or that relatively clear sky will maintain into Saturday night. We're expecting a partly clear sky, 54 degrees, just a touch warmer, and we're only going to get about 25 degrees warmer on Sunday, 79 degrees, much the same as Saturday, flirting around the average with just a few more clouds with that added bit of moisture in our atmosphere. So, Christy, to answer your question, not too warm out there.
Many people spark their interest in science at a very young age, whether it be in a school setting, learning about a new career, or on a school field trip to a science center. It's no secret that all K-12 students need a solid foundation in science for the next generation to excel, compete, and lead in a global economy and pursue expanding employment opportunities in science-related fields. Though our current national science education standards for grades K-12 are of high quality, they are over 15 years old. Science has made leaps and bounds since the late 1990s, such as with private space exploration, alternative fuel possibilities, and discovery of new planets, for example. And an effort has been made to make science curriculum more uniform nationwide and launch our younger generation into the modern era with the next generation science standards. These new standards are rich in content and practice and will provide all students an internationally benchmarked science education and prepare them for college and future careers. As we transition from those lazy, hazy, crazy days of summer back to the fast-paced school year, teachers may find it a bit difficult to ring in children and steer their interest back to learning about science. Well, one website could hold the key. The joint NOAA-NASA website, Scijinks.gov. The website offers a plethora of games, trivia, puzzles, and videos explaining our atmosphere and weather, from what causes lightning and thunder to the history behind weather folklore. The site could easily help with weekly activities to spur interest in the weather happening around students. The content also aligns well with the next generation science standards, providing lesson plans and activities for a wide variety of subjects. Take clouds, for example. Teachers could set up group activities in the classroom with full step-by-step instructions and activity guidelines provided by the website, creating an interesting lesson on cloud type and precipitation, using simple materials like plastic cups, rulers, and candy to have students estimate the amount of precipitation that could fall from different cloud types. With these lessons, students combine earth sciences and technology as well as math with estimations, percentages, and ratios, all while still being entertained. The countless activities provided by Scijinks.gov help with literacy, cognitive development, writing, and problem solving, as well as helping the teacher come up with creative ideas to hold those students' attention. An interest in science starts young, and like many of us here on Whether or Not, our interest in weather and decision to become meteorologists was started in the classroom. We'll be back with the extended forecast after this.
Now it's that time of the show to take a look at the recap of this weekend's forecast. And again, it's going to be beautiful outside. 3 to 4 degrees below average on Friday, sitting at a high of 76 degrees. And as we slip into Friday night and Saturday morning, 54 degrees, chilly but great camping weather, not as cold as we were last Wednesday morning when we dipped into the mid-40s. And we'll get up a little warmer on Saturday, 79 degrees, probably just getting close to touching 80. Same deal on Sunday, few clouds, but a couple more on Sunday as some moisture tries to creep into the area, and as it does, we might see a shower thunderstorm on Monday in the afternoon. Low probability of that, but still have to include it in there just in case that high pressure system does push the moisture up from the south. Now Tuesday and Wednesday, however, we don't expect to see any moisture sneaking into central Pennsylvania, so we're not going to include the chance for a shower or thunderstorm until we get into Thursday and Friday when we see the passage of a front coming through the area. The entire week will look to sit just below average, for the exception being Thursday, and that average for this time of the year is 80 degrees. So it's going to look cool, and it's going to be a very nice week that might have you wondering, where exactly did these dog days of summer go?
Well, Tom, it looks like your forecast is pretty dry for next week, except a possible shower or two in the extended forecast late in the week.
Yep, you know, last week we didn't see too much in the way of rain. Next week I don't see it either. The moisture should stay, for the most part, at least to the south of the state. And if that holds true, we'll be dry just as much as we were last week.
Well, being dry definitely brings us to our Weather Whiz quiz, which state has seen the driest July on record? A, Idaho, B, Washington, C, Oregon, or D, Iowa? And the answer is C, Oregon. They've only seen 0.3 inches of rainfall in the month of July this year.
You know, that's really helped prime their wildfire season, which has been truly devastating for the forests of Oregon. The only thing that can come out of that that's any sort of good is, actually I learned this one from my time living in Oregon, the sunsets during wildfire season were absolutely spectacular. From the particles that were burned being released into the atmosphere, it reflected those last few of the sun's rays, and the sky was absolutely ablaze in red.
And sunsets can also be beautiful here in Center County, and we'd like you to send us your pictures in the upcoming days, and we can show those pictures on our show next week. So if you want to get a hold of us, please email or tweet your pics to us at weatherournotpsu@gmail.com or tweeting to us at psuweatherornot. Well, that about wraps up our show for this week. I'm your host, Christy Shields.
And I'm your forecaster, Tom Bedard. We'll see you next time.